Rumble picks like Nocturne, Leona become a lot stronger. Varus, another strong pick that works well with the Rumble. So KT have to think carefully about what they're going to lock in here now, and they will put their focus to Noah's Ezreal. One of the first players to play Ezreal in Spring Split consistently when he was subbed in, and he's going to keep playing it now.
Yeah, and Blank is hovering the Italy here, which is pretty interesting. Thinking about playing that into what is most likely the jungle Rumble, and it's definitely a pick that Blank could play, but he does immediately move over to the Nocturne. It's one of the things you were thinking about.
Yeah.
We do get that selected here.
And it could end up being Doran's pick here on the top side of the map. It's really easy for him to roam down with Paranoia, but that's not really Doran's playstyle, right? You think of him as he's going to have a bit of a wider, more of a teleport style type engage, not the Paranoia in. It's a little bit more telegraphed. It means he's going to be being more aggressive more often if he goes for the Nocturne pick, because it's more of a global champion. So a bit of a widening here of the champion pools. We will see Kalista coming through here for Leo. Not normally, something that we see prioritized this highly for Afreeca Freecs, historically speaking. So kind of an interesting one here.
Yeah, I mean, he's played Varus, Senna, and Ezreal, which all kind of lean towards one kind of play style. Kalista, pretty aggressive, and we're looking at potentially the Gragas, which you might expect to go with the Kalista into that bottom lane. Really trying to get aggressive onto this Ezreal.
Yeah, it's a huge departure, actually, from what we've seen, because you mentioned the Varus, which is also a pretty great matchup into the Ezreal in the early game because of his lethality and how squishy Ezreal is and how difficult it is for Ezreal to fight early. And this is an extremely common pairing. We've already seen it tonight. Very common, Diana, Nocturne. Really good for team fights. You have a lot of long-range engage potential with this, and it allows Diana to close the gap. But this does mean that the Nocturne is going into a solo lane. That was one of the questions we had. Will Blank be playing it? Will it maybe go to the top side of the map? I'm not 100% sold just yet on Doran's ability to play the Nocturne, but we don't necessarily have that. I think something that you're thinking about banning now as KT, because we don't know the solo lane matchups for Afreeca yet, is Set. He's the ultimate flex. Fly has played the Orianna. That's where he's found the most success, so you take that away. And I think Set is the safest ban here now if you just want to take away the tier list from Afreeca.
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of like it banned out on both sides, unless you're actually really focused on picking that fourth for the side of KT. You might want to select your support and then see what happens, maybe get a counter pick. Would definitely help when you're going up against, Keen in that top side. We do have the Braum banned away. They're really trying to lock down that bottom lane. I mean, they pick it early, a very aggressive Kalista Gragas, and then they take away the Braum, so they're taking away safe options from Harp and Noah. There's so much focus and respect being shown for KT's bottom lane.
There really is, and I think Afreeca have identified that this is where KT have really started to get a lot of their early leads, is by controlling the bottom side. In a meta like this where you have Ezreal, if you get him ahead early, it speeds up how quickly he's going to get that third item. And once you have that, I mean, you see very few Ezreals complete that item at an even or leading game and actually fall behind and lose. You only really lose out, the early game to Ezreal if you make a mistake or if it's a really strong bot duo, which the respect is being shown here for Afreeca. Viego will be banned. The set's open here. You mentioned that you like it for KT too, and they're going to prioritize the Leona instead. Really like getting that support advantage here, or rather not having a bad matchup, I should say. Gragas is almost certainly going to be support, but we don't know that 100%. Could still be played top lane.
Leona comes through. Not too surprising that they do lock that one in. And will we see the set out of Afreeca? Definitely a question. I mean, that definitely goes straight into that wombo combo kind of feel.
Okay, the Camille would be really fun to see, but they're going to go into the set instead. Camille ends up being a really, really keen S champion.
Maybe? This is potentially blind. I mean, because Dove is the only guy on the side of KT that's played Nocturne. And you're thinking that Diana's going to the jungle, of course.
Jace is banned. There's a lot of things that can go wrong here, actually, for KT. With the champions left available, you might end up being stuck with Nocturne up here into this.
You know what matchup you just said earlier you wanted to see was Camille versus Gwen.
I was literally about to bring it up because you and I were talking to Kisan during the break about how I really would love to see that crazy side lane matchup. So we see Xin Zhao will actually be the jungle. So this means that it's going to be Rumble mid. Also, I guess I should put the caveat that it's possible Xin Zhao's in the Soul lane. Seems very unlikely based on what we've seen so far. And the final pick here is going to be the counter into, again, the Camille. And if it's something like a Gwen, that would be so fun to see. I mean, that's the kind of matchup I want to watch. It's extremely volatile.
No! We were so close.
I was so close. This is like, I literally said I want to see Camille versus Gwen in this series because both players are so fantastic at side laning. The playstyles are so perfect for those champions. It's a matchup we haven't seen in the LCK yet, but it's going to be a little bit more boring with the set coming through here, and that's okay. You know, it's totally fine to see that, but now for Afreeca, we have a lot of extra side lane pressure with this Camille, a lot of skirmishing power too. There's going to be the Xin Zhao jungle. Fly's going to be playing the Rumble, and that puts a lot of pressure on this player who has not historically been extremely successful on complex champions in the mid lane. We'll see if he takes Comet here and tries to poke set out. It's definitely one way you can play it. I'm looking at this matchup though, and I think KT got almost everything they wanted. As much as I wanted to see the Gwen into the Camille, because I think it would be fun to watch, I think the set suits their composition so much better. They're so well-rounded, they have great engaged tools. The Ezreal is going to be so difficult to kill.
Yeah.
They're not going to have bot lane prio early, but if you could see Noah and Harp survive that early parts of the game, I think they really run away with this.
That's the expectation. Definitely just huge amounts of skirmish. The mid game, the mid to mid game there for Afreeca is pretty insane. Whereas on the side here of KT, we're seeing so many more sets into aggressive compositions, and we've seen like so many disengaged set ultimates, and I really like that final pick, especially once you see all 5 members. You're gonna have a lot more room for your Ezreal to make things work in the mid to later stages of the game with the set final pick. As here we go, jumping onto the Rift for game number 1.
And what is really exciting about this top matchup, even though it isn't the one that I was begging for, and you and I both knew it was unrealistic to expect, but we got very close.
He hovered it.
He hovered
so
it.
close.
It almost felt like it was personal to me, like he was like giving me a shout out. But what's interesting about this matchup is that it is one where Keen has a lot of agency.
No, they were thinking about it. They were thinking about collapsing there, but no.
I think it was definitely the better choice to back off. They get 2 deep wards, which then further gives a little bit of extra information about when Blank is going to be heading that part of the map. A lot of resources already kind of given in a somewhat nebulous way, but still to making sure that Keen stays stable on the top side of the map. You know, in terms of side laning, Camille can duel so many of people who could rotate over, right? So many players that would rotate over to deal with her. But you do have to be careful pushing very deep as Camille when there is a Nocturne on the map, because he could be anywhere and then Paranoia in, and you end up having a bad time. You end up getting caught. So I like where we're going here in this game, because it does really feel like it's about that key player top matchup. So this is going to be an exciting one. Hands down, like, my highlight match of the 3 we've seen today in terms of draft.
Yeah, very true. As definitely a lot of eyes up there on the top side. You will note, we were mentioning in the draft that maybe Dove was going to play this Nocturne, but did not come to pass. Nocturne up against the Camille. As we're seeing, it was a very hard leash from the bottom lane of Afreeca. Got a lot of Ren stacks, pulled it out. They stayed around for a very long amount of time. And then Dread immediately comes mid lane after getting the Raptors and soaks a bit of XP and says, no, this top side of the jungle is mine. And there's not much that the Diana can do about it.
Yeah, I look at how Xin Zhao is doing in the meta right now, and I'm a little bit surprised that we don't see more of it in Korea, even without the Lulu. I actually saw Dan's game. No Twitch emote intended. Last night for
Dan's game.
Well, I'll talk about it after this exchange.
Yeah, we're having the flash on in. Noah's really looking to put the pressure on the Lahens, who is getting low, but the potion is ticking, and Blank is still doing the camp. Level 3.
Just pulling a bit of a maul around here.
Somebody start the timer. It's like at least been 10 seconds. Somehow that Q landed in the middle of the minions.
Waves here now. They hit level 3. This is going to be your moment, Blank. Sink or swim.
Okay, let's see who they go for as well. The heal comes in, the teleport as well. They want to go immediately for Lahens, who did not have any summoners. As Leo will flash away, there's the first blood. Dubby's just running straight at him, but he dies to the minions. And Noah does go down, but it's still a great trade here for KT at the end of it all.
Yeah, this ends up being better for them. Bit of a mistake there. All on the bottom side of the map for Afreeca. I was going to mention, I watched Dan from XL last night play the Xin Zhao Dan's game of Xin Zhao last night. And it was one of the best performances I think I've seen so far on the champion. And I'm hoping we see more of it, but I guess we're going to go into this replay before I can get into my analysis of that. So you watch this engage, they actually body slam Blank here first, but he's able to jump right back in. Leo dies to the minion, as you pointed out, which makes this fantastic. Even though Fly committed his teleport down here to trade 1, it's a 2-for-1. Fly loses teleport, isn't in lane now. And Fly actually took Conquer, which is not like, crazy or anything like that on this, but does make his laning against a set a little bit more about how his melee attacks rather than his poke and his chip. So I'm really curious to see if that ends up being the better choice here. In terms of like fighting later, it's definitely going to be stronger. But in terms of the lane, not as comfortable.
Yeah.
Without that extra damage.
Trades will be nice. This Blank is getting in there. And this is totally unseen. Fly, oh no. Oh, the face check. I don't know if they have any way to actually kill him though, even without his flash. As they're a little bit slow. You saw Fly was about to check the brush and it looked so sure that they actually were waiting for him. But then once he turned around, they had to try to engage anyway, and he had actually made a little bit of room for himself to escape. So
yeah, I think
good news for Fly.
The cool thing about that attempt is that even if you get him down to like 1/3 health, he doesn't have teleport. So even if he gets away and he has to back, like you're gonna cause him to lose so many minions. But he reacted, decided not to face check, so they aren't able to get that big of a lead out of it. In fact, he's very fine to stay in lane, but that was almost insane value from KT, so I love the play, even though it didn't work out.
We're showing a lot of pressure down on the bottom side here. Keen has his teleport. And note that Doran just teleported top. So actually they're just going to say, okay, we have control of the bottom side, we have prio. I'll just teleport up to the top side as well. Should just be the very early first Drake going the way of Afreeca. I love the way that Dread is playing this, even though the dive response from KT was fantastic. I really like that idea. But Dread has just been, he's got one objective in mind. It's like to deny as much of the jungle away from the Diana and to take the early objectives. And he's doing that very nicely, even though, the bottom lane is what it is.
Yeah, it's always going to be a hard time. But I've been very impressed so far with how Afreeca has handled the early pressure. They're not that significantly behind, right? They had that vision control. You saw the teleport top. They know they get the Drake for free in this moment. It was very clean. So they have a significant gold disadvantage at this stage, but they still have the Drake advantage. And, as Rift Herald spawns in a minute, they have a comp that can skirmish over this. Both teams are really good at skirmishing this early on in the game, so it's really going to be about who has better control, who gets there first. I think to have the advantage. You can see 2 wards are up right now for Afreeca. They're already kind of one step ahead in that regard.
Yeah, I definitely like Afreeca's chances, especially earlier on in the game, if we do get into some big skirmishes. And I feel like that's really why Dread is like, oh, no. Like, every objective is ours. You're just not going to fight us.
Yeah.
Just yet.
Sometimes when you have comps that are so similar in terms of their power level at this stage of the game, the Rift Herald fight is decided by whether or not the AD carry joins the fight. Sometimes you have both AD carries stay bot, and then nothing happens there, and it's an even fight. But sometimes the Kalista will actually go up, and then the Ezreal, in this case, in this matchup, will actually get a lot of extra free farm, but it may cost you the Rift Herald, so it ends up being somewhat of a trade. With the Rift Herald spawning in 20 seconds of the vision here for Afreeca, Leo staying here, I think it is going to be more of an even fight. Look at the posture here for KT right now. They actually sent Harp, though, so it's only no on the bottom side. So numbers advantage right now to KT as they look for a pick right before the Herald.
Good ward here from Keen, by the way. There's a control ward just out of range of this one. And he's able to, the Leona hasn't come out of the brush, but he's able to keep himself safe with that one. the top side of the map, Dorn has mostly just been clearing the way with his Qs, right? He hasn't really been in the face of Keen, so they must know that a rotation is coming up here with how aggressive Dorn is. They're going to be able to clear out that ward.
Kalista coming up. This is what I was talking about. You leave the Ezreal in this losing matchup and Leona's gone. Kalista comes up here. This is going to be very difficult for KT to fight. They can delay and they can take that extra money. But Noah's actually coming up, but he's going to be so late. I don't like this for KT.
Oh, they want to engage here. KT are really getting in it. And you can see the huge amount of damage. The wombo combo that Duff sets up is just massive.
They got to be careful, though, on the retreat here.
Oh, Afreeca are actually getting in there. Not sure about this. They're able to take out Blank, but the revenge might be coming in here from the Ezreal. Huge amounts of damage actually from Dove as he makes his way to yet another kill. And KT will take a big win in that fight.
Well, you know, they make me eat my words as they come out of my mouth, but they don't take the fight on the Rift Herald. They engage away from it where they have a really nice advantage. They use the set engage to actually grab that extra CC. Watch this again. Now, Dread's here a little bit off on the side, and you know that Noah isn't here just yet, but Dove knows he can flash face break. They have the paranoia to close the gap, so even though it looks like it's actually even numbers, it's basically a 4v2 here in the mid lane. So Afreeca come back in, try to turn the fight, but now Noah's here. Now you can't actually win this exchange. Yeah, you get a kill back, but it's set. He's got face breaker, and actually they stay way too long here, Afreeca. Picking up the Rift Herald is, you know, what this fight is all about, but if you have a team that's really ready to engage and have a coordinated fight like that, flash facebreaker with paranoia, this is the level of coordination you did not see from KT in spring, but that we're really championing right now here in summer.
Yeah, I mean their execution is so clean, and as you mentioned, the team play as well. It's really good to see. You can see the communication is on point, and you understand Afreeca's mindset, right? They're like, okay, every early objective should be ours. We should win every skirmish, but they were posturing so aggressively in the mid lane that they just opened themselves up for the perfect KT engage, and KT immediately acknowledged that and figured that out, and they get a really big lead off of the back of that play. Now, they get a bunch of gold from the kills. Unfortunately, it looks like they're not really grouping up to try to snowball anything off of the back of that, and so Dread might just end up soloing this Rift Herald, although we do have the True Shot Barrage here to spot this out.
Sees it, but Paranoia is a few seconds away from Doran. I mean, that's the longest cooldown you're really looking at right now with the exchanges, so if he had that, maybe you could look to group again. You still have the Showstopper back up for Dove, but without it, you don't have your full power, you know, for going for the recontest. But the gold they got in the fight puts them at a 2,000 gold lead, so I think they're actually pretty happy to instead group for this Drake. This is going to be long-term the more valuable objective. Even though they lost the first one, they're putting themselves on even Drake footing right now. And in terms of solo Drakes, this one is the more valuable of the two we have so far.
Yeah, I think the play that they make is a good one, as you pointed out. And now we actually have Blank hanging around mid, but so is Dread. He's got the Rift Herald. Already a little bit of damage chipped away at that mid turret. But Dread going to wait for that one. I'd like to see him drop it actually in the top lane and try to get Keen really fed for the split push potential in the mid to late game.
Harp's here.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Blank nowhere to be seen.
Keen does not see him just yet. There were no pings. Harp is right on the edge of vision. But Keen will be playing respectful. We're not diving any turrets just yet, as here we go. We're just trying to kill Dumb, actually, as there is no escape for him. They just ended his life so quickly, and now that's going to be a lot of value here in the mid lane, especially with the Rift Herald.
Felt like KT took a bit of a gamble there, sending Harp to the top side of the map, expecting that's where the collapse was going to be of the Rift Herald. Try to get Keen fed there, get a little bit of extra money. And you're okay to send a Leona across the map when you know you're going to be losing bot prio anyways, even in the 2v2. But with the, you know, slight overextension there from Dove and the feeling across the board for KT that it was going to be the top side where it went, meant that he was caught a little bit off guard. You could see just how quickly Dove reacts here, thinking that maybe there's a chance he gets out. But, like, he sees everybody, stays for 1 extra second, and then the Showstopper is like, well, you were pretty hopeful there, my dude. This is a nice bounce back. It's a lot of extra gold going over to Afreeca. They've narrowly closed the gap. Only 600 behind at the moment.
Yeah, it's a really nice chunk, and they really do need to get that chunk in order to feel good, because when you consider the late game, the Diana's going to scale up pretty well. The Ezreal obviously is the big one on the side of KT, whereas, I mean, Afreeca might be relying on some big split pushing from Keen to get the job done in the later stages of the game. So the more early objectives you can get for Afreeca, the better.
Yeah, when you
feel
talk
good about your chances.
When you talk about team fighting in the late game too, you know, you put aside the fact that Noah's going to be extremely strong and very difficult to deal with. Blank's going to be difficult to deal with, but when you talk about face breakers and showstoppers, right, and paranoias, long-range engage tools, the side laning is really your only chance as Afreeca to start a fight on even footing, because if you can pull resources towards the Camille, then maybe you can get vision advantage, maybe you can get positional advantage when KT has to pull players over to deal with that Camille pressure. But I feel like it's not going to be as valuable because she isn't very fed this game. She's not extremely ahead. She's having a pretty average Camille game, so that means that that's one of your win conditions that, sure, it will come online later, but isn't as strong as it could be. So this early part of the game is so important for Afreeca. They cannot fall any further behind. And closing that gap, like you said, in the gold is going to be one of the first steps. Is you see Blank waiting here.
Nice dodge by Dove, actually. Able to deny the damage from the Xinjiao, and they were ready to hop straight in there. As you can see, you know, a lot of the plates did go the way of Afreeca. KT's lead in the early game was basically all just kills and plays that they have made, as they have taken exactly 0 plates in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's an Ezreal is up against a Kalista. You struggle there. You know, we saw a lot of resources devoted to the top side of the map for Afreeca. It wasn't a winning matchup for Doran in this particular game, and then we had the Rift Herald plus pick in the mid lane to get those extra plates. Kalista got 1 plate bottom. That's just kind of the state of the matchups in the early game. A lot of that extra gold, so important here for Afreeca. This next Drake fight that comes up is going to put one of these two teams on a Drake advantage. But I think for KT, you have a lot more ability to walk away from this one, so it feels like there's a positional disadvantage going into this, whereas for Afreeca, I think you really need to kind of snowball this game a little bit, try to get that Drake advantage, get a little bit more tempo. Otherwise, you know, you are going to be, once again, stuck dealing with, you know, engages that are going to be based on that side lane. Again, they don't have amazing initiation tool. Xinjiao is great, but he doesn't have a Lulu this game, you know. Gragas, another great engage tool, but it's so difficult to pull off when the lights get turned out and you're fighting in one of these chaotic fights. Just way easier to execute for KT Rolster.
And they have Set. I don't know about you, but I'm actually a huge fan of Set in this meta, which is why, you know, during the pick ban, you and I were just calling for it. Like, where's the Set? Are they going to ban it? Who's picking it? It's good on both sides, actually.
Yeah.
It just what it does in terms of the engage, also the amount of soak that it does in terms of just soaking straight damage, and then you haymak with the big shield, and then you can actually counter engage. The disengage options that you have with this champion right now.
Yeah.
With so much aggression and melee champions in the game, I feel like his stock price just rises higher and higher, and we just see more and more of this champion, and I'm only enjoying it as life is just going to fly. Is just going to get out of there. Definitely the right call.
Flash for his life,
yes,
if you will.
True.
KT are going to group for this.
And, KT are just getting in there as a team. They see enemy champion, and they dive on enemy champion. There was, like, not even a half second of hesitation as Xinjiao Dread is going to be able to pick up this objective, which is really nice for Afreeca. They need to snowball these objectives here as the cask is going to just delay them for a bit. So just the 1 kill will go the way of KT.
Yeah. Dread's loving that 900 damage smite right now because that gets them the Drake and gets them out of here. The equalizer was insane because everybody who dove in to kill the Rumble ate that damage. But Afreeca were focused on getting the Drake. They were out of position. Hold that thought. Doran, forced a flash.
Yeah. Afreeca, you know, just they have their foot on the gas pedal as well. They understand the urgency of their situation.
Exactly, and that's something that they've identified here. That's why you see that group up for the Drake, and instead of actually trying to turn on the equalizer damage when they're down a player, and they know the mobility, they know the peeling power that Dove actually can put off as the set, you just look for the Drake and you try to retreat. That was, I think, the best of a bad situation that Afreeca could have asked for. But is the best of a bad situation enough? I think the answer is no at this stage, but they're going to get the Rift Herald. Keen alone here.
I feel like Harp must be like on the comms. He's like, we can kill this guy. with how aggressive he's positioning, and now Blank is here. They really want to just say, okay, you wanted to be in a side lane by yourself, but actually, no, we're just going to pressure you out and maybe take this turret, in fact.
But the top side of the map is going to have the same effect here for Afreeca. In terms of resources spent, the trade plus the fact that they have the Rift Herald up there, I think this is a losing exchange in terms of how long it's going to take to do this for KT versus the value you're going to get on the top side of the map here. Look at Kalista. She's in the jungle grabbing red buff. It's going to be able to catch some waves mid. So a lot of resources spent on this long con game bottom that doesn't pay off. I think this gets a charge. It's going to be close. Nope.
Swiped away. Doran able to pick up that extra bit of gold.
Yeah, Dread was a little bit further away than I thought.
Uh-oh. Noah's alone down here. There's just nobody here with him. That's just a straight up kill onto him as he stayed for just a bit too long. And that's all the welcome that Keen and apparently Lehens needed to get on in there and take the kill.
So watch this fight again. We're going a little bit back in time, but this is where Fly gets collapsed on, and he still hits a massive equalizer, right? It hits all 4 players. He's feared and blown up. And instead of trying to re-engage here with the Camille and collapse in, Afreeca realized they could cut their losses here, grab an objective, and get out, because with all the CC and all the mobility that Afreeca have, you're really fighting on the knife's edge if you want to try to turn that. It's tempting because of the health bars, but you don't go for it. And this is just Noah being caught. We saw this just moments ago. A little bit overextended, a little bit greedy on the bottom side. And
yeah.
Keen fan here, Kim Arong, loving it.
Yes.
Hands clapping.
For you guys who are coming in late, Kim Arong, as you mentioned, short track gold medalist for Korea, coming on down. Apparently Keen was her tutor in League of Legends, and she has come down to see his skill, is what her sign did say earlier. And so far, 2-1. As you mentioned, it was kind of average before. He wasn't stomping lane or anything, but at least the play on the bottom side onto the easy target of Noah will draw the cheers.
A lot of the gold, long con player from Doran.
Let's see if King can work his way out of this one. 2v1, the fear is so big. Into the CC, you can see he's trying to do whatever damage he can to Doran, but that is going to be a sad Camille at the end of the day.
Gold medalist curse.
Yeah.
Not going to blame the casters for this one. But yeah, no. I was going to say, a lot of the gold being on Blank in this game is pretty massive for how big he's going to be in these fights coming up. He's already got his belt online, and you can see he's working towards the second item. It does have the stopwatch. He got a little bit of extra gold, so he could actually afford to toss that one in, which means he can actually ult with no real fear of being punished. Getting an Oblivion Orb now as his third major item here. It's going to delay, or rather deny, a lot of that healing. Leo went for the Immortal Shield Bow, so that's a really powerful counter item to pick when you are the one who has the extra gold. So I like how KT are building their items. I like how they're playing around, or how they're getting ready to play around this next objective fight, as this is just another greedy punish. Saw seconds ago, there's a lot of CC here, there's a fear, even with Hextech Ultimatum. Not going to be able to escape from that one, sadly, but next fight, going to be around the Drake Pit in 25 seconds or so, and you have to favor KT going into this fight with now their comps really starting to come online. I'm worried for Afreeca here. They have that extra buffer of a Drake. Trying to force this fight is going to be tough, but they do have Camille on the flank. She will be seen by that control ward, so it's not going to be a secret. Yeah. Obviously, she's pushing the minions too, so it's very obvious that she's there.
Both teams definitely do have abundant engage options, so even KT in a pretty good spot here. If somebody gets out of position, Lehens gets a big engage, a big cast. You never know. I think it's going to come down to the execution as in he goes. There's the cast, and there it is once again. The dragon going the way, but in goes the set, getting so much value in the back line, but it might not matter. So many low health bars on the side of KT. Everybody is on the run. Once again, we see a set have no follow-up from his team. Noah's trying to go 1v3 here. Doesn't look like it's going to work out, as now it's Blank's turn to try to do exactly that. A very close fight in terms of health bars. Leo is getting low as he will go down, but Keen's easily able to take the rest of the kills on this one, and he'll be happy he did so.
Now, this was a really nice positional move from Afreeca Freecs to actually get Dread into position to smite steal that Drake away, guarantee the Drake, and then the follow-up fight is so difficult for KT to pull off. They get desperate. You'll see how Dove is able to get a lot done in the part of this fight where the Paranoia comes through. There's a triple stun here. It's such a great fight. As you mentioned, Lands coming through, but look at Doran here. He has to basically retreat. He goes in after the paranoia, but he can't get out. Keen gets the stun into the wall, and like everybody's so low here. It's a rare fight that you see in this meta where the Ezreal player is low health towards this part of the fight, and then he can't actually finish off those low health targets. Everybody gets split. I think if Noah actually rotates up here with Blank and Doran, it looks a little bit different, but we saw what actually happens. Keen picks up 1,000 extra gold right before the turret goes down. And now Afreeca Freecs have Soul Point, 1,000 gold in the lead. And it's a very different game than the one that we were looking at 5 minutes ago.
This is exactly why, right before the fight started, I said, you know, it's going to come down to execution. If you get a 3-man body slam into a gigantic cask into the wall on top of the equalizer from Rumble, it's hard to lose a fight. I don't care what composition you're playing or even what the, you know, the game state is at the moment. The engage was just too pristine from the side of Afreeca. KT were still almost able to chip away at some of the health bars with how crazy Ezreal can be at times.
This feels like a symptom of a problem that we have with this comp that KT are running, namely the Nocturne Diana, in that it's one of the strongest comps in the meta, played around the world, especially in Korea and China. However, the only teams that are finding great success with it are our top teams, right? And KT is fighting for a position to be one of the top teams in the LCK, but the execution here is really similar to what we saw in our previous series today, a little bit off, you know? And if you can't actually hit it pristine, if you can't have the coordination to set this up, yes, you did it in skirmishes, but not on these objective fights, and it's rough.
Ooh, I think maybe Afreeca may have overextended here as they're trying to get on top of the Xin Zhao, and they do have the damage to do so. The Camille is out of the fight for so long. That's another big equalizer, though, once again. Say what you want about Fly, though. He has had some insane equalizers today in this first game.
He really has. And once again, KT try to utilize their long range for a turn and a skirmish, but ends up being traded here. We're 10 kills to 10 now in this game. Afreeca have really turned this game around, but I need this composition to work, or I think everybody who's a KT fan too needs this composition to work on the Drakes, on Baron fights, because if you can only make it happen in these crappy fights, and arguably they didn't even fully make this happen, right, because it was a trade, then I don't know if you should be running this composition. The Solar Flare actually goes in onto Xin Zhao. Doran's actually paranoiing onto Keen, so a little bit of a disconnect there. But still, you can see the power of the paranoia when Afreeca's halfway across the map. But what happens when they're 5v5 all grouped up together on a Drake? It doesn't feel as powerful so far from what we've seen from KT.
Yeah. And I think that does speak to the way that Afreeca are executing the fights as well. I think just as a team, they're playing really well. It reminds me of the first 2 games we saw from them, or the first 2 series, I should say, where it looked like a new Afreeca, a new season, right? They're really turning things up and playing as a team. Really nice Solar Flare is going to come in, though. That's 2 guys that are stuck in the front, but where is the follow-up damage? Here comes Dub, trying to get that engage in. But again, Noah's just a little bit out of position. He's able to jump forward, though, and now maybe here is his time to get the damage. They take out Keen. There's the shutdown, which is really massive. And now this kind of skirmish is going to be perfect for Diana and the Ezreal to just chip away one by one. And this is right before the Cloud Drake. This might have been KT's way back into this game.
I mean, it feels like it is. Once again, KT take a skirmish fight with this comp defensively. It's a defensive paranoia that saves Noah. You mentioned it in the fight. He was a little bit out of position on the side, but Doran holds the paranoia to basically max duration to make sure that Noah can actually get out of that spot and then get into range to do the damage. They're going to go straight for the Baron here. Forget the Cloud Drake. They want more. They're 2 Drakes down. They want to get a little bit more value out of this exchange while everyone is still on these longer death timers. They can get a Baron and then maybe group up to take that 5v5 fight and finally find success as we head into this next Cloud Drake. I mean, they're going to reset first here. The timing of this is fairly thin. Actually, a really nice ward to teleport on here means I don't think they're even going to get to contest.
It's definitely Afreeca's, and that's the trade-off you make when you're a KT, because you can only get one, right? As this is not going to steal. If you wait for the Cloud Drake to spawn and you get that, you get 1 Cloud Drake. Yes, you deny the soul, but then you don't get Baron. So this Solar Flare is huge from Park, by the way. He's the one who gets it all going, immediately follows up, and it's really nice.
Noah's late to the fight, but the Paranoia here goes down, and he walks through. Look at how long this Paranoia is, because it's held for so long. No one can actually jump onto Noah. Nobody can actually punish him, so he's kind of unseen, doing massive damage at range. And yeah, after the Baron goes down, there were a few KT players grouped up, but they didn't have full vision, and when the teleports come through, it's like, well, you're never going to be able to make it in that time frame. And I think this is the better of the two choices they had, though. I actually agree with KT's choice to grab Baron rather than grab a Cloud Soul here, because that extra gold is going to maybe help them stabilize and snowball to those final items they really need. I actually don't know if Noah has his Frozen Heart just yet or not, but I think he should be getting close if he doesn't have it already, and that's one of the big spikes, one of the only ones left for them that they didn't have. And yeah, he does have it.
I do agree. I mean, Cloud Soul's great for Afreeca, but at the same time, the raw gold swing that you get by taking the Baron here is just going to be massive for KT, and it might just not matter. They're going in straight for Keen. Doran saw blood in the water, not really able to get much except a hook shot out of Keen. So the push will continue. KT very aggressive. They want to get so much value out of this Baron push if possible.
Yeah. Now the Paranoia is on cooldown, they can't actually really push the issue any further, but they can rotate mid and get that outer turret. There's a lot of extra gold, like you said. I mean, not just the 1,500 you're going to grab from the Baron, but also the gold that you get from the objectives that come with it, these turrets. Anyways, where a lot of that is kind of packed in here for KT. So much extra money for them.
Uh-oh, this is a good position for Afreeca, but not really able to follow up on the equalizer. Keen is taking a lot of damage on the backside. Once again, you can see just how close these players feel like this game is and what it actually is, with ultimates just being thrown out but not really able to capitalize too much on them. KT doing a good job of just sieging the turret. They're not overextending. They're actually getting a lot of value with the damage from their poke.
Yeah, you could see Keen was considering rotating up, but he decides to go down and clear that bottom wave, stay in the side lane. Rotating in now that there's a little bit more lethality onto this turret, like it's very low. They know it's going to go down, but he doesn't come up here in time to save it. And KT will back off the last 15 seconds of this Baron buff. Very well timed here. Can get those empowered backs to reset with the extra gold they've just had, or just gained from those objectives. And unfortunately for Afreeca Freecs, there's not really anything to gain here on the map right now once KT reset, except maybe Blank.
Yeah, one lonely Diana might be the trade here. Blank is delaying for as long as possible and is even going to use his Zhonya's. I think that's okay, especially because there's no objectives on the map for the next 3 minutes that you do use your Zhonya's there. But this is a nice pick for Afreeca, and they'll be looking for a bit more. They want to get this turret at least.
Now what's scary about Afreeca's comp is they don't have amazing siege power. They do have the really fast clear that you can have with Camille, right? Xin Zhao going to clear minions very quickly, but they don't have the ability to poke or harass, so they can't threaten anything with a pick like this, like you said, with the objectives so far away. It feels really fortunate for KT that they can actually kind of sit back and breathe for a moment here before the next fight comes. And if you do try to force down some of these turrets, the inner turrets, for example, the engage from long range is so massive. Oh, this is a really nice spot on him too from long range to prevent him. And we just saw this. He buys a lot of time. But if you try to actually force anything after this as Afreeca, you're going to get paranoid, right? Set's going to come in. He might showstopper you back into a turret or into the base. So it's a bit of a lull state here now as Afreeca just try to get prio in all the lanes. That's about as much as they can ask for.
Yeah, it's just a natural lull state, you know, with no objectives, I think is what you're talking about. But this is, I feel like it's still feeling pretty good for KT here. Noah is absolutely online. Like, this guy is pretty massive right now.
No flash anymore.
He's pretty far away from the fight, though. This equalizer is going to be good, as so many Zhonya's in the back there, and that's a massive engage from Dub, and the follow-up as well from Blank. Do they have the damage to take everybody out? It looks like the answer will be yes, as Leo is on the run. Keen might actually survive and escape here, but that is a huge team fight win going the way of KT as Leo cannot get anything done.
Finally, we really see the full power of the set Diana with the Nocturne to start it all off. That's the Wombo combo we've been talking about and discussing for days and days, and it feels like the first real successful, potentially game-winning play that we've seen with this combo here in the LCK in our first 2 weeks. It's a beautiful thing to behold when you see it all happen. And for once, again, this is KT taking a skirmish fight when Afreeca are a little bit too far out on the map. But this is what I was talking about before. Is just watch Dove. He's going to get a massive face breaker. There's the ultimate coming through from Diana, and then he showstoppers right afterwards. The haymaker is so big, and it's just an easy cleanup from here. But every single one of these fights we've seen from KT were not grouped on objectives. It was just when Afreeca were a little bit overextended, either in vision or on the red side of the map. And you just have to be so careful. You try to push lanes, or you try to get too much of an advantage when there's no objective on the map in a lull state. You're putting yourself at risk of getting wombo comboed like this. Now, the respawns are up. A lot of those tools have come back up online here for KT too, so this is not like Afreeca lost right when the objectives are up and they lose control of them. So they still get to fight for this, but
yeah,
the tightrope that Afreeca just walked was really thin and the wind was blowing.
And KT, they say, okay, we don't even want Baron. We only want the Elder Drake. They backed with a minute until Elder. They didn't even go for the inhibitor turret. They say, no, we need position on this Elder, and that's all we want. But I don't know if they really have huge amounts of damage on this objective. And they're looking for the engage now, but where's the follow-up? They get the Elder. Do they have the damage to go for the execute? Torin is looking for it. You can't quite get it just yet, but that's a two-man Diana ultimate, and that should just be enough. KT identify their win condition, get the Elder, and end the game, and I think they'll do just that.
Exactly. Baron's up, but you don't even really need to talk about it because they're going to just walk down mid. They have insane pushing power here. Once they take out this inhibitor, anybody who gets near is just going to shatter. And this is just how you win a game. Really nice execution from Dove and Blank. Fly goodbye.
Yeah. Noah's online. He has been for a good 10 minutes, I'd say.
That Elder Drake line across the health bars just feels so tragic.
Yeah, and Dove is actually looking for a bit more. Don't know if they have the damage even with the Elder, but they're just going to take down the Nexus, and that's game number 1 going the way of KT. Took a little bit, but they got the job done, and we saw exactly what we were looking for from this composition in the later stage of that game.
There were some hiccups, though. It was not perfect. There were a few mistakes around those Drakes, right? Which allowed Afreeca to actually end up getting the Cloud Soul, but it wasn't worth it in the end. And when there were a few moments to breathe for Afreeca where they thought they could take control of the map, we won this last fight, let's go try to fight over Baron Vision, let's try to push these waves to get Prio in all 3 lanes, that's when tragedy struck. And all it takes is one wombo combo when you're not grouped up, when you're not set up to fight against Diana, Nocturne, Set. It's so easy for the fight to be just an all-out steamroll. And that's what we saw. I mean, it's so hard to even calculate like how much value Set got in that fight between his damage and his CC and the